Killmonger, right?
Killmonger, like.
Yeah, so I mean, he was a villain, but he wasn't really a villain because he was just saying, like, he was just doing what any person in that situation would do. I was born in the hood. Yeah. I grew up with nothing, which is how a lot of, unfortunately, black men in America are right now. You know, they're angry, and unfortunately, he was able to build himself up to the person, you know, keep it under control, not kill people, at least not in the, you know.
And he didn't have a father figure. His father died early from, you know, from the circumstance, you know, so he didn't really have anybody to really kind of raise him. He went to the military, so all he knew was military tactics of how to kill people and how to overthrow governments. So he did what he knew. So whenever he got to Wakanda, he was just like, hey, you know, not only am I furious, I want to free people, and I want to free people that was in my situation in the hood. It was like, damn, that's actually commendable.
Because y'all got all this technology, y'all got all these weapons. Y'all got everything that could be helping us right now, and y'all sitting up here doing
nothing,
doing this bullshit with it, kind of hiding it. So,
but then
he actually wasn't a villain.
Yeah, he wasn't. And what tripped me out is then it comes to the complex of how, you know, instead of there's always somebody trying to look for a handout, and I feel like that comes from like churches or just certain things you see in life, like somebody feels like they owe you something. So it's like Killmonger, like. Yo, they don't owe civilization anything because they just don't. Like, their way of life is preserved because they preserved it. But, you know, it's just a thing of, like, saying, I'm going to take it because you deserve to give me this information because we're just the same color. You know, and it's kind of like, in certain situations, that's just not how, unfortunately, that's just not how it works. Like, nobody owes you anything. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like when people go for food stamps and stuff like that. Like, nobody owes you anything. So instead of you having this dependent role on something, be upset at it, you go make your own and make it happen. Right? So what's so funny is when he did that, it was addressing the modern day African American, where it's kind of just like, you owe me something. You owe this to me. Why didn't you give this to me? You owe me. And Wakanda's kind of just like, yo, we're just gonna make this on our own. We're gonna make it happen. We don't need anything.
So he said, "Fuck, I'm gonna go take it." He knew how to get it, and he was about to take it. It was about to happen.
Yeah, he took it fairly too.
Yeah,
he took it very fairly. To be honest, like, you know, the battle that happened at the end. Like, if they didn't have his superpowers, he wouldn't even stood a chance. Right. When you really look at it,
he didn't. Well, yeah.
At the end, he had superpowers.
Because, you know, after when he was fighting with the suits and all that shit, I think he just outsmarted him at the end because he knew Wakanda better and he knew the system and shit. Yeah. So he was able to.
But the battles are made where it's man to man. The battles aren't made to where it's superhero versus superhero. That's why he takes the drink. Because it drains all the superpowers.
Yeah, well,
so he lost that battle.
Yeah, he lost that.
But traditionally, he lost it.
Yeah, I was talking about the one after.
But the one after, you gotta, like, that's not really a traditional battle.
Well, nah.
So it's kind of like, in reality, you know, he is the rightful winner.
Yeah,
that's why at one point when he said, well, told me the information, so it wasn't a tragedy, he actually just lost. Because in actuality, like, oh boy, of royal blood, won it fair and square.
Yeah.
Fair and square. Like, just, and then threw his body off, you know, and then, you know, by technicality, the other guy, he didn't die, but oh boy kept his crown, so you're supposed to fight to the death then.
Yeah, well, to the devil until somebody give up.
To somebody, well, I guess until another person gave up. But I guess they didn't really.
T'Challa didn't give up.
Yeah, he didn't give up. Yeah.
So they had to do the other fight. Then when they was in the Panther suits and all that shit like that. But I guess T'Challa's Panther suit was a little better.
Yeah. And that was
somewhat because it was newer. But I don't know.
it was like a lot where you're just like that was like how they did the villain was just super, like, the complexity there.
Yeah.
And then being a king, like, even the dad said, like, if you're a good person, the king's not for you. So it's just like, eventually he's going to get to
fucked up too.
Yeah, and, you know, but the thing is, he was doing it for a cause of preserving his people because he kind of knew that, you know, people are greedy. And what he was really talking to was, like, pretty much white colonization. Like, once he comes in there, they're going to take your stuff and they're gonna say it's theirs. Right. Which history has repeated that, and it's definitely have showed you, you know.
And it's kind of cool that, cause you could tell it's written by black people, because I could see Black Panther being written by. If it was written by white people, it'll probably be Killmonger be this evil person that was killing people.
Super evil, just killing them.
You know what I mean? For no reason, he's just wild, and then there's no real like complexity from a black perspective to those characters. But since Killmonger was technically bad, but we threw this other loop saying, okay, he was bad because of his environment, but he's not really bad because this is the realism of what he's dealing with. So.
Because it's like the thing that he was doing was liberation. They both were doing liberation. It was just different perspectives.
It's like Malcolm X.
Exactly. He was just like, well, if you give people these guns and they're gonna fight. They're gonna fight the government. We're actually helping, and then we'll rule because they're gonna say, well, they gave us the guns. Which is nothing wrong. Ain't nothing wrong. Well, that's how it works, right? If you look at like how they did Iraq, Afghanistan, just how they do it. Or even Korea, like they did something like where it's like we're gonna give you these weapons, right?
For Africa right now.
And and you're gonna defend. You're gonna defend. We helped you defend, right? You're gonna overthrow the government, but when we need our favor, do not forget us. So that was kind of the tactic that Killmonger was doing, and then which normally works overthrowing. He's gonna rule the world through that tactic, which is a very smart tactic. Where the other king was just like, nah, man, no, we're just going to keep to ourselves because we've done so well. Because when you think about it, if you keep to yourself and you work on yourselves, like, honestly, you develop a lot faster than if you're sharing resources. Because people take stuff from you and they don't believe in a certain code of action, like what the household believes in, or like whatever your kingdom believes in, which is interesting, man. So there's so many dynamics you could look at and kind of say, wow, this is kind of crazy how it's like this, One of the things that they did attack, though, in a good way, was feminism. They definitely showed that women have power, which is pretty interesting because the dynamic of how Africans are is, especially African Americans, a lot of times you'll see that the woman is a little bit more in front or more masculine, I can say, in a sense. Like the best way to put it is like, a woman will jump up in front and protect you before, a guy. Especially like in, kind of like the black society, which is interesting.
She'll have that like instinct.
Yeah.
And which is another black thing, maybe. But the women in this movie weren't like weak. They weren't like, oh, we're completely defenseless. Like we gonna run and then fall and trip over a fucking imaginary rock. Like they was like, look, we gonna be fighting alongside too. If we getting fucked up, y'all getting fucked up. Everybody getting fucked up right now.
Yeah, it was definitely equality in that. Like it was like super equality. Where you're just like, oh, that's dope.
And which could be based on a more African perspective from like religion, where it's like Mother Earth, mother's the seed of the earth, like she's where everything stems from, where they have more of a respect for women and women's accomplishments and stuff like that. And it's looking at mothers and women as like not more like my rib type of deal. It's like, all right, she's where it comes from, and then we're all byproducts of that. Whereas the Western society is looking at more so like women, you're down here, men are up here.
But that's kind of like a worldly thing though, because I feel like around the world they kind of look at like women as like especially like in India and other places, it's like women are normally like second tier.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's like you don't really send women warriors out really. Like that's not like a common practice.
Well, I mean, not women like warriors, but then that war is just one aspect of life.
Definitely the women were like warriors in that movie, which was overall was a good movie. Like it makes you think about stuff, and it makes you like not question, but it reinforces stuff that you already know, but it's definitely more subtle.
Word.
A lot more subtle. It's not like in your face, like boom, and it's just like, well, here it is. What I'm saying?
It's subtle enough to make you kind of think about it versus immediately drawing a conclusion. Like if something was to happen, it's just so deliberate. Like this guy's bad, this guy's good.
Yeah.
It's like there's just no layers to that. It's nothing real you can think about. It's just okay, that's what it is. Which is most of the Marvel movies. Unfortunately, it's like this guy's bad. This nigga's destroying the Earth. These guys are good. They not destroying the Earth. That's it.
And going back to Killmonger, what I just realized is like they even said just because he was an outsider, even though he was giving like, because it's kind of like what do African Americans do when they go back to Africa? Like, how would you get treated? It's just like certain things you think about because this Killmonger was of royal blood. His circumstances kicked him out. He came back. He wanted to be accepted. He wanted to rule it, not even be accepted. Because how many times have you been in situations where you come into a job and then you just say like, hey, you got the job. You know what? You want to build up from the bottom and be the president. And then you just realize, even if you get that title, they're still not going to accept you.
That shit's not going to happen.
It's just not going to happen. And that's one of the things that they kind of like mention too. Like, no matter how hard you try, because he did everything fair and square, they still didn't accept him, right? It's kind of like whenever, you're trying to prove somebody wrong, like, I'm this, I'm that. The thing is, once you try to validate yourself towards somebody, they look at you as weak. The validation is you showing up and they should validate themselves to you. So it's just like a different thing because, like, for instance,
a job.
He didn't have to, exactly. He didn't have to go through, or Killmonger didn't have to go through and validate himself through Coachella. I'm sorry, I fucked up the name. Through the kingdom, you know what I'm saying? He could have made his own kingdom and pretty much just said, well, all this information I know, we can just destroy you. So it's just like different ways of thinking that he could have did it. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of like a black man in America. You go through this system and no matter what you do, whether you agree with me or disagree, a lot of people just are not going to accept you. Like the majority is not going to accept you.
It looks like that on the outside, but a lot of times, like even me sometimes I be wondering certain shit. Like you apply to certain, like for instance, I've been applying to media shit. I don't even know if this is worthy for video or too personal. But
fucking put it out.
Applying to different jobs, like niggas be having me run through the hoops.
Yeah.
Like I remember one instance. Phone interview, had a schedule, boom, was supposed to happen at this time. Didn't call. Had to email her to tell her to call me, and then she emailed back and said, "Oh, push it back." And basically the shit didn't happen. So it's just like all these hoops, and then you go to somebody, I can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. This is why you should hire me. And then it's like, then the shit don't happen, and you kind of thinking like, well, is it because of like I don't know.
You don't know because you don't have control. Like when you're trying to do what I've learned in life is people tell you the technicality thing because it sounds good, but when you go through the technicality, at the end of the day, they're just not going to try to give it to you. They're going to try to give it to their friend or somebody that they know. Mm-hmm. Perfect example was Black Panther because even though this guy who of royal blood came from the outside, beat him, was a better warrior, right? He literally beat him in fight. And then there was a second fight, but you had to watch that. He beat him fair and square, right? Of royal blood, did everything, right? They still even when he sat down, they were just talking shit to him and not accepting him. They didn't even give him a chance. They didn't even try to understand his logic. Only one guy tried to understand his logic and saw where he was coming from. Everybody else was just like, no, because we're so used to this other person and we don't want change. It's kind of like, he came in trying to change the furniture in the house and they were just like, no, we're cool where the furniture's at. You feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's kind of like, if you go into any type of structure, you're trying to rearrange that furniture, they're not going to accept it. A lot of people just aren't going to accept it. Or if they do, they'll act like it and still talk crap behind your back and try to backstab you to get you out. Mm-hmm. So like to saying what he was saying, they just threw out formality. Like, he won the game. He could do everything. But then again, you're playing their game when you got to make your own game, right? It's the same thing over and over again. You can either play somebody else's game or you can play your own game because it's about validation. You can validate yourself. That's called self-love. You don't need anybody else to validate you.
Right.
Just like the movie. The dude was looking for validation from the kingdom. When he was already the best warrior, they were telling you like, he's good, blah, 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 but he's not good on their standards. So no matter what, don't get in situations where you're going to lose. Get in situations where you're going to win, which is your own shit.
Word.
That's how I look at that one. I was just like, yo, he's playing the wrong game.
Word. And that was our take on it, man. You could definitely leave a comment below. Let us know what you think about everything we just said.
Yeah.
And, you know, make sure you check us out. Follow us on social media, man. Follow us, 2 Educated Guyz, man.
Peace.
You ever wonder why this don't happen to you? Cause you ain't educated.